will send him straight to hell no matter how many times he speaks about Christianity if he's deep state. Because who is he? He would be then that thing that we wrestle against. Remember, we don't wrestle against flesh and blood. We wrestle against that spiritual wickedness, the high places, the principalities, so on and so forth. So again, remember, your preacher, you may love him and worship him on earth, no matter what he does, but he might go straight to hell for being deep state. It's that simple. The deep state is the beast. I don't know if you worship it or not, but many people on this earth worship the deep state from their churches. So again, it's pogey bait. Why is it pogey bait? Maybe you don't know what pogey bait is. First, it's bait. But this is really pogey bait because there's nothing there in reality. But because President Trump's in prisoner of war camp, he'll think it's something wonderful and nutritious and he'll just gobble it up. Because why wouldn't he? It's all he can do to stay out of where they're trying to put him. But in doing so, he might not seize the opportunity to focus closer on what that report lacks. Again, psychological warfare. And it's very interesting today that God led me to that Nazi propaganda piece where it explains how people are encouraged to join in that propaganda. And this is what we're seeing all across the world. They're playing out an illusion. Some of the youth are brainwashed. They don't think it's an illusion and they don't know it's an illusion. But the teachers' unions and all the others, they knew it was an illusion, but they brainwashed the children, the youth, into it. I go get my tea here. I could most likely get around what they did on that credit report and get a loan from the other two, somebody that uses the other two bureaus, but I'd rather just wait till it gets off there completely. And when I was studying it, I found out that you may think a certain bank uses a certain credit bureau, and they do for certain things, but yet when you go for a loan, they will at times use all three. So you have to be careful there. So again, they're trying to get me into a certain way with that, either to try to get credit, believing that it's off my report, or frustrate me. Good old Indiana. Well, Indiana has not fared well over the years in reality. Many tragedies. Many tragedies. When I was there, I told them it's because of the demonic activities, and it still is today. Their whole excuse as to why, it's funny because it's the same excuse everybody else uses. Their whole excuse as to why they're not criminal is because they've been around since 1955. And I was nice. I didn't use my standard line. I said, well, that means you've been criminal since 1955. That's what you say when people say that. Oh, great. You've been criminal since 1955. I really let them up and thanked them and everything. They wanted to pull my chain. And I think that's what they're doing. They want me to have to call back again. Because I kept speaking to her nicely at the end. And she's just like, that's it. I'm terminating this call. The only thing I said, I really didn't appreciate what you did to me by stealing my identity information. And if you think that you're showing how powerful you are by doing this to me, you're on the wrong end of the Bible. You're showing yourselves to be those that restrict buying and selling. You're not going to get out of it by giving charity. Paul said, you can burn your body, sell all your goods and give to the poor. But if you don't have charity, then you don't have anything. And God said to Samuel, don't look at them. Don't look at their wonderful charity and their nonprofits. You know, I have to tell you that I don't condemn Franklin Graham to hell. But when people begin to worship a nonprofit, when I know what nonprofit means, a nonprofit is a nonprofit. You have to be really careful. I've went over a lot of things over the last so many decades, and quite frankly, I made public notice. If you didn't read it or hear it, that's too bad, right? Isn't that how it works on earth? Isn't that how you did the innocent blind people? People that were spiritually blind that could not see? If they didn't know and they're ignorant of something, then that's on them, right? God knows who you all are. God knows when you make laws and use them to harm people that are innocent. God knows when you're investigating something and actually moving CIA activity to cause crime. Because I can't tell these things. I don't know these things. I have no knowledge. I have no ability. And neither do you, really, but you all think it's you. Keep going. Keep going with your wonderful selves as we enter outer darkness. So again, Samaritan's purse is no indicator of the decency of anybody. Because why? Because that's burning your body, that's selling all your goods and giving to the poor when you didn't even sell all your goods and give to the poor. So again, that's where God looks on the heart. And a lot of churches do not like that statement when I speak about how deep that statement is, because they've lived their whole life being somebody or something. But yet, if you are somebody that feels good about other people falling and will other people to fall, and guess what? We have a ton of that in our governments. So you can worship this country all you like, but God has told me there's nothing on this planet and there's nothing in that government of any redeeming quality. Let be this nation. It's not real. People are in darkness by the nature of what you all did. So God's going to bring that outer darkness to the entire planet. Make sure you don't stub your toe the next time you try to invest some of your money or try to get some of your profit out of your business. That's just the way it works in the Bible. Everything I'm saying, everything I'm doing is the real Bible, not what your church is preaching, the real Bible. And then, of course, the greater works that we will do that is attached to the kingdom of Christ as it moves forward in Revelation. Now, one thing about Revelation, the book of Revelation, do you believe that that's a revelationary time period? The mysteries of God and the prophets and all of that should be revealed to a greater degree. But yet, what are you saying about such revelation? Well, I don't see it in the Bible. Well, go to greater works. That's one. It's in there actually, but you've been taught the wrong way. So you don't see it in the Bible. Now, there's a preacher with me, a preacher spirit. When I say there's a preacher with me, a famous preacher, they're here with me. Believe you me, I know preachers, ages worth of preachers. I know Paul. I know Paul. Do you know how it is to be a seer? You can communicate with your friends in your mind and have experience with them. I don't know if you know that. I never had that until I woke up, and then, of course, the deep state gets in the middle and makes it either one-ended or a confusion. But yet, they can't block me from knowing Paul, knowing Peter, knowing Jesus, knowing Alexander McLaren, knowing John Brown, knowing Abraham Lincoln, so on and so forth. So God knows what you squander upon this earth, because if you truly want something healed, you wouldn't have treated my life this way. What you're really saying is you want to be famous. You want people that you want harmed to be harmed. And you only want people to do well when you decide they should do well. That's really what's going on this planet. And that's not charity, regardless if you give money. And that's one of the problems with what's going on around President Trump. If I was President Trump, I would tell people, please, let's not speak about my charitable activity. And I'm going to try to not speak about mine. We'll get away from it. But that's a reality. Because President Trump's large. He's a rich man. He's a president. So it's more detrimental that he fits the biblical standard better than I do. Because I don't have a life where I can even buy a vehicle right now, which means what? Which means I'm not living my life. I'm still spiritually blind as to how to get my life forward. President Trump is not so spiritually blind. And he's a rich man, so he's got to be concerned with what? That eye of that needle and that camel going through the eye of that needle. So we've already seen where I've credited the president with not being an angel of light, which is a good thing. That says he is not somebody that's focusing on the purity doctrines, and the purity doctrines, when they're taken away from the reality of the Bible, they become a doctrine of angels, trying to appear as an angel of light when Satan is in that thing instead of actually being light. Again, I call it the sin game. People with power possess other people and cause them to sin, and then point at the other person's sin. And they'll do that through various methods: physical, psychological, and spiritual. So we are entering outer darkness. And what people go, well, I don't see it. It's because you're in outer darkness. You're not going to see outer darkness overtaking your planet. I mean, you could, I see it. But if you're trying to see where it's going to hit, you're not going to see it, because it's just going to happen instantly. The same way this thing's happening to Schiff. Schiff had no idea it would turn out this way. Now, Schiff knows he's got the Democratic Party votes, so it's just a matter of voting Democrat. They're not actually voting in an impeachment proceeding Democrat. So there is a big difference. But yet, why are you having trouble? Because you're not taking care of the everyday person that is taking care of you. God expects you to take care of people that have taken care of you. Now, I want to get back to something. They claim that these wealthy preachers are somehow wrong. And I just had a discussion with a guy from Austin, Texas, and some of the preachers he spoke about may have been on the wrong side of their wealth. I don't know. I explained to him, I said, sometimes you need wealth just to stay up. Because, see, if I was a wealthy preacher, I could go everywhere and do everything I need to do. I can't in the life that I'm in, but I can because and this is one of the keys, I'm spiritually endowed to do things from my little nowhere land to alter the world. And whether you realize it or not, I don't have to do any more than I'm doing to notify you of what you're doing wrong. Because you minimize my life, I can't put that message out at the Crystal Cathedral or someplace like that. So again, that is what Revelation is about also. I'm going to try to clear the air here. The demons, devils, antichrist, witches, and sorcerers are listening in and trying to cause a disruption. What that is, I'm an ark. We have angels of vengeance coming through me and through that breath out into the earth existence here. And they will take care of whatever needs to be taken care of. Now, in the same way, the deep state will bring devils, demons, antichrists, witches, sorcerers up to fight those angels and that clearing of the air. So with President Trump, uh, he's a very wealthy man. So to speak about him donating, it's the same thing with the Koch brother. That guy's most likely in hell. I'm not condemning him to hell, but he's most likely in hell. Just face it. Just face it. Quit looking at physical charity as what the Bible was speaking about. The Bible goes through a series of things to help you understand that charity is not charity. If you cause others to fall, you are not charitable at all. You're just trying to cover over the fact that you are a devil, which is most likely who the Koch brothers actually are. They are devils, most likely. Where did you expect devils to live? I mean, where do you think they live? The real devils, the devils that are causing the issue on earth. Where you think that they would be sub-mammon power? No, they would be mammonites, extreme mammonites in reality. Because it doesn't matter how much you give to the church. If you use any of that money for mammonish activity, then you're gone. You see, that's the problem with money. So again, having large amounts of money shows, and it isn't all the time, because I've said this before, it shows that you have an ability to move your life. So it shows that you have a certain level of vision above everyone else, a certain amount of power above everyone else. But it doesn't mean that that's the absolute. Again, I always try to teach the biblical information and anything that's revelatory that I receive to say it's not an absolute. There are no absolutes, but one thing. There's one absolute. And you could say it's God, but what aspect of God is absolute? If I had to pick anything out of the Bible to say it's an absolute, God does not want anyone to perish. That's the absolute. That's a loving God. God does not want anybody to perish. That's a loving God. But if you are in a life and you're causing others to perish based upon your own heart, it doesn't mean they said something, it doesn't mean that they didn't say anything, then you're going to perish. The Bible says that. You can't buy your way out of that. Moving psychological operations around people causes people to fall and causes people to perish. If they're spiritually blind, God grabs them and takes them to heaven anyway. So we have people out there trying to cause people to be sinners for some twisted deep state reasoning, even if they don't consider themselves deep state. Deep state is huge. This nation fell. We have fallen into communism. It's going on right now. Government employees are communists, and they will seek out Communist Party members in the community that they have connected with. Sometimes it's a law enforcement network, and they're called informants or confidential informants, things such as that. But the reality is they are communist informants, and they don't only inform, they set people up in the ways that I spoke about and in the way you see happening to President Trump. So again, he's called a whistleblower. They're called confidential informants. You see the scam. So again, outer darkness is coming. It'll be interesting to see what happens. We can already see Iran beginning to move again. It's the last thing we want to have to deal with. But more power to Iran if that's what God wants. Read the Bible. Just going to church doesn't satisfy God. Just pointing a finger at someone else and calling them a sinner, in fact, angers God more so than satisfies God. And that's what I've seen the biggest thing, even in the liberal churches. Liberal churches will pick other people to cause the fall and point the finger at them. The conservative churches, and you're having this back and forth. Meanwhile, the people are stepping away from the church going, I can't be in that place. Those people are crazy. I've had some of the worst experiences in my life in church, even before the worst experience. I never had a good experience in church, not once. But I was with God. I helped the preacher, I helped the church. I did all that I could. But they're fallen and they do their fallen things, and I have to move away from it. I can't stand in the presence of it. So, what does that say? That says there's no place for the people to go to be healed because your churches generally are not healing. Even if you heal somebody, why isn't the other person being healed? And in some cases, they actually go down when they go to church. I've had that happen to me. Why? Because it's not real. You're moving your own wills. You're adjusting the earth powers using the God of this world within your churches and saying, I want that person up, I want that person down. That's what you're really doing. And that's why you don't like me. Because I know what you're doing. I know how evil you are. I know you work for Comey and Mueller and Tenet and Haspel CIA. I know this. I know you're not angels of light, but if you go to the Bible, yes, you are angels of light because you're Satan. And you believe in restricting the buying and selling. That person deserves money, that person doesn't. That person deserves up, that one doesn't. Don't blame it on the Satan people. Don't blame it on the satanic churches. Half of them don't know what power is to begin with. They have no clue what's going on because you put them asleep from birth. Now, I brought up the fact, and I want to reiterate it. When Jesus says that when a person is healed, they end up possessed again, that was only one part of that. Because there's a greater part of that that was not revealed and remained a mystery. Because they're possessed again to enter back into that house. They're trying to possess me to enter into a church right now or another religious community. I've told you I'm done with that. Jesus didn't have much time for religious communities. He spent enough time in a religious community to condemn the religious community. He spent his time out with the people. The problem today is that the Roman legions here, and believe you me, many of them believe they're Roman centurion types. They reveal themselves quite frequently, these corrupt government people. But they won't let you be with the people. They will cause people to fall constantly around an outreach, a real outreach. I told you in the late 90s, the Justice Department and the CIA decided they needed to fix the churches. And what did that mean? That they would become state-run churches. Most churches today are state-run and state-approved. And I'm not speaking about being violent, but that's a reality. If they believe that you can see something and speak about it, then your church won't exist, or at least the preacher won't exist any longer. Again, they have no liking of the truth. They don't stand for it. So again, most of the church system that we see today is a state approved church. And what do they want out of a church? They want a church to tell people that that's a sinner and that person doesn't deserve anything. That's what they want your churches to say, because that's what they once said. So if it fits into the deep state shadow government criminal enterprise subversion, then it works for them. You don't know how hard it is to speak with juniper and cedar up as high as it is. I'm hoping I get a reprieve when I go to Texas. And to tell you the truth, I could drive my car to Texas, but I'd have to be very careful. And that's what I might do. Although I might move my stuff in a moving truck, I might just say that's it and go. But we'll see. And then I'll just put it on a trailer. And then I won't have to do anything other than get out of here. And that's maybe what I'll do. And then just say, forget it. And it's not to say that I'll end up in Texas staying there, but I have to move my ark. You know, I do have to keep the ark. I have to pay that tithe to the storage unit to keep my ark alive. I have to take the ark with me. So most likely it's starting to form that I'll be out of here in a moving truck and I won't be buying a vehicle, especially if they don't fix my credit. I'll have to go and get an attorney and see if we can sue them. I probably do better get an attorney well, actually, I don't know where I have to get the attorney. Well, Experian is in Texas. Sometimes you can sue people as long as one piece of the case is in that state. So Experian's in Texas, so I might be able to do it through that connection. It'd be difficult to get an attorney in Indiana because, like they said, they've been around since 1955, so everybody's wired to be corrupt with them. It's pretty evil in Indiana, I'll tell you that. You might have some good churches and good people, but it's pretty evil as far as the system goes. And I don't expect people, Mike Pence is not a psychic. And so he doesn't know what I could see and can't see what I can see. And plus, he lives the ivory tower life. One of the things the deep state wants to do, one of the things that Satan wants to do, both being synonymous with each other, is to put certain people in an ivory tower life so they don't understand or can't understand outside of that life. I've said President Trump does well for somebody that's as wealthy as him because I've seen people less wealthy be 10 times as aloof, and he's not aloof, but every once in a while he's aloof, but that's okay. I mean, we can't expect, and I'm not worshiping President Trump, I'm just using him as an example that everybody would know. Because I've been around people that weren't aloof, that were wealthy and lived a spoon-fed life. Now, Son's pretty aloof. Yeah. Don Jr. is still in training, I guess. Hopefully he can raise to the level of his father, or rise up to the level of his father, should I say. Or raise the level of his father. All right, President Trump up. I misspeak there. And hopefully he can raise up to the level of his father and understand a little better. The problem with President Trump is they keep him off balance, and they try to do the same thing to me. It's a deep state trick. So President Trump is a little bit off balance. And that's what you're seeing when it gets a little weird. And that's what you see with me also when it gets a little weird, but I don't care. I'm in spiritual battle. If we're going to go to hell, we're going to go to hell together. Believe you me, in 2007, a big hell began because of what you did from the mid-90s until 2007. And we're due for another one. I said when it happened, I said, now you're all repenting. And, some of you are jumping out windows, but other ones are repenting. And eventually this is going to fix. But when it fixes, don't turn around and become that same evil piece of defecation again. And they did, all over again. No, it's an evil world, believe you me. The buying and selling, the working is restricted. You will not get a job if the deep state says no. You will not have an opportunity to buy and sell if the deep state says no. I'm telling you, that's still going on. That's a revolution that took place, a silent revolution, a psychological war revolution. And there are casualties. There are people that were wounded, people that are dead. And they don't care because they're the CIA and FBI. This is you can't handle the truth world. But of course, we can't handle the truth. They can't. No matter what happens here on this planet, because they keep banking on maintaining a certain level of power. And they just move Horowitz in to try to be their front man for retaining some power. But no matter what happens on this planet, you're going to go to hell. And sometimes God can take you through some things on earth, and then you don't have to go to hell. But all of you can't allow yourself to ever pay for what you've done to harm others. So God can't use that with you. So again, there's a greater work. There's a little bit more information. There's some revelation. I just gave you $1 million worth of revelation this week. And why am I saying that? Because the deep state is controlling the buying and selling. And that is the beast. The deep state is in the government. It's not this one little cell affecting President Trump. It affected Robin Gritz. It affected Daniel Marks. It affected Bob Levinson. It affects me. And quite frankly, it's more difficult than being a SEAL in combat. And it's just as dangerous. I'm telling you that right now. When the deep state psychologically wars you, it's more difficult because when combat is like easy. That's why they never let me back in the military, and it's not because they stopped me. What they do is they have spies. So when they find you're thinking about going back in the military, like I was around 2002 or 3, they make your life so difficult, you're just lucky to be able to maintain breakfast and lunch and possibly dinner. See, there's no way you can go back in the military. But combat's easy because you have an enemy, you have a weapon, and you fight it, and you just kill it. For me, that's natural. I have no problems with demolitions. I have no problems with, ways to maintain an offensive posture or defensive posture, either myself or with a squad or platoon. I mean, I can think up above the division level. I can move a whole corps. I have no problem with any of that. God has blessed me with that ability. I'm a general. I'm one of God's generals. It's just a fact of life. But when you're in psychological war where the government has fallen, there is no law enforcement for me. Do you understand that? And then they go, oh, you need us. No, I don't need you. I just need you to stop and go to hell, quite frankly. But the reality is they are psychologically warring U.S. citizens, and government employees are part of that when they believe that they are a threat to the deep state shadow government criminal enterprise. And you might not be a threat. All it takes is one of their wacko piece of defecation nutbags to say that you are. And then everybody tries to kill you. So again, that type of war is very difficult. That's why I tell everybody, don't act out violently. Don't act out violently. Let God be violent. Because that's what they're trying to do also, is to make people violent, but it's a psychological thing. You get so frustrated with what they're doing to your life, and this is part of what they're doing with that credit report, that you would do something violent. But of course, I've never done anything violent, and I don't do anything violent. The only thing I had was a reckless driving thing, and that was because they drugged me in a Starbucks. But once they use a certain drug, you don't remember anything for years. And the craziest part is I was in Omaha or somewhere near Omaha when I drank the tea. But I was in New Jersey is where I started. And I was receiving information after I drank the tea, before I went completely out, that they that they were following me and that some of these cars around me were actually them. And then no, actually, it wasn't when I drank the tea. It was like the night before I drank the tea. That's what it was. It was the night before I had a hotel. The night before I drank the tea, I looked and I saw vehicles passing by. I'm like, when you're become a seer, people look familiar. They look familiar to you. People you don't even know. And I'm like, why do these people look familiar? Why are they looking at me a certain way? And God says, because they're following you. They're here. It's not everyone, but in these groups of people are these deep state people. And then we didn't call them deep state back then. And then the next day, that's when I got drugged and the guy said something to me. And, I believe it was in the tea. It could have been wiped on my car because back then I would touch everything and wouldn't even think about it. But they followed me from New Jersey to Omaha and then drugged me in Omaha. Actually, I was trying to get up north. I was trying to get to, what state? Idaho. I think I was trying to get to Idaho. Was either Montana? I think it was Idaho. I was trying to get to Idaho. Because apparently there were real Christians in Idaho. That was the idea. And when you look at Red Dawn, it happened spiritually. It happened through psychological warfare. We are taken over by our enemies. We are no longer a free nation, regardless how free you feel today. Irregardless of how free you feel today, we are not a free nation. I am not allowed to take part in the economy because of the criminals that I used to work with that put me in like this to the deep state and involve CIA and everyone else. Now, the entire idea was that free America was Idaho. And I'm not dreaming this up and I'm not psychotic. And what it meant was if I could get to Idaho, I'd be okay. There were groups of people in Idaho that could help me restore my life. But I never made it to Idaho. They drugged me in Omaha. But they drugged me before that also. I had been drugged for quite some time. I was gone. You know what? If a cop knocks on my door, I open it. I was so afraid of that door after they drugged me, I didn't answer the door. It turned out to be cops. I didn't know it was cops because they left a note for me to call somebody. I forget what it was. This is when I was in Pennsylvania. My car got in an accident. Somebody hit me, and it's just a whole series of things. But they were drugging me, and that was the problem. The drugging started in New York, and then I came back down through Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and I thought my mom was home, my mother was home, and I didn't want to deal with her. But you got to remember the whole time they're drugging me. Drugging me. And psychologically operating me when they can. Because I'm moving so fast, it's hard to psychologically operate me, but it's not impossible to drug me. There's corrupt people everywhere that'll do their bidding. It's not a free world. It's not a safe world. And it hasn't been for over 20 years. You look at people around you, you want to know why they don't succeed. Some of them are not allowed to succeed. And your church believes it's right because your church believes they're a sinner. Because you're not a sinner, they're the sinner, right? And the person that's cutting them off from buying and selling and taking part in the economy is a good person too, right? Because you work with them, CIA, FBI, DHS, foreign agents like Steele, using GPS Crow. It's okay, right? Because they're all good people that attend church also. So again, that's what's going on. And there is a reason outer darkness will come. And when you can't see like that, you're going to experience loss. It's biblical. It's entirely biblical. We should not stop biblical punishment for the planet because it's going to cause you economic loss. People are already suffering when they can't take part in economy. Now, some people, they don't have to go to the physical part of it because one of their devils will walk by them, curse them, and they'll never get anywhere. They can't get past the curses. They can't be asleep and push past the curses and become a sapper leader, become a deputy U.S. Marshal, go to church and um, understand the Bible probably better than anybody in the church. They can't do that. So they don't need the CIA to attack them. But the CIA will curse them if they go down the street and think that that person needs to be cursed. They're devils, demons, antichrists, witches, and sorcerers. And that includes FBI, includes your local police, your state police, your mayor, your governor, if they're part of it. Again, the people that aren't part of it aren't part of it. Everything I tell you is true, but it's only true about the people that it's true about. And if it's not true, then it's not true. But most of what I say, if not all of it, I believe everything I've ever said is true. It's just, where is it true? When is it true? And that's what I tell you. So I'm not trying to say that everybody in the CIA, and that's what they would want me to say, oh, you're saying that everybody in the CIA. Now, why do I think the FBI is evil? Do I have to continue to explain that? I mean, I've explained it years ago when people go like, what? Why do I think the CIA is evil? Years ago, people go, I don't think you have to do that anymore. I really don't think I have to explain, or I don't believe I have to do that again. And they're here. They're trying to stutter me. I hear them. I feel them. And I send hell for them. What they're doing to me and what they've done to me, I didn't know what it was called in the beginning. They're putting me in hell. They lived a life where they put people into hell. So God is here and has journeyed to earth, hearing my suffering, found me in that state of life that I had, that the government was giving me, so that I would either kill myself like Jonathan Luna, or maybe go wacko and become a mass shooter, which I doubt I would ever be. But that was their plan, because they've done it before. I am convinced that the Unabomber was created by the deep state. I am convinced, I think his name is Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber. I believe he was made by the deep state. When I saw him, after I experienced what they did to me, and I saw him come out of that house, I looked at him, I said, them son of a guns. I can see how he feels. I know that look on his face. They're trying to isolate me. They want me to sit in this room all day, because it'll drive you nuts. You'll become like a Ted Kaczynski. But I got God. I got God. So I got a different life, and thank God that I do. Because in here, if I'm stuck in my room, if you put me in my room all day, who do you think I talk to all day? Well, I talk to a lot of spirits, but I talk to God. And I mean, it's a very valid experience. It isn't like, okay, you're talking to God and just sending words. I'm having a conversation with God. And God's instructing me, and I'm witnessing for God. So again, that's the state of the union, and really where it's been for over 20 years. They created criminals. And quite frankly, there are also people like Russians and French intelligence and MI5 that come into our nation and attack our citizens in the same manner. They are all part of the global intelligence state, and they believe that they are angels of light, and therefore have a right to cause detriment and disability and death in the lives of others. It includes our CIA, unfortunately. It includes our FBI, unfortunately. It includes GRU, which used to be the KGB. It includes Chinese secret police. It includes MI5. It includes billionaires and millionaires. They hire, people that don't have much, give them jobs, give them money so it'll be something someday. Sometimes it's a state job. Sometimes it's a federal job. Sometimes it's a private sector job. They used to call it secret society, but it's the deep state. We call it today. And it is the beast. And it's been here. And if you wonder why somebody isn't somewhere today benefiting from the economy, it is most likely because the deep state, the beast, is restricting their buying and selling and their ability to take part in the economy. If you didn't know how that works, I just explained it to you. Buying and selling isn't just you have to use a credit card to buy something. That's not what it is. That was unintelligent. That may have been put out by CIA to confuse you, by FBI to confuse you, and to confuse your church. It is their ability to restrict people based upon psychological warfare, spycraft, criminal enterprise of a secret society nature to restrict people from economy. And it's going on today. And it's been going on for decades. And God is not mocked. You will reap what you sow. And outer darkness is coming for all of you. And there are worse hells today than outer darkness because you created worse hells. And those are coming for all of you. Well, praise God in all that you do. Praise God.
You are listening to the Law Enforcement Pirate Radio Network. Radio Free Larry presiding.
You can run, but you can't hide.